All right, are we live again? Second try of tonight. I mean, it's last because the other one's called Live Monday 8. That was try number 8 before he decided to help me do a live show. So let's see where I am now. Is it actually doing a live show on my channel? Is there anything happening on my channel during a live show? Why can I not see anything happening on my channel? It's so depressing. There we go. Yeah. What a great title. Otzi 2. Now, why is it called that? Because I wasn't even sure that it was going to work. So, but it looks like we're... Ah, finally. Yay! We did it, guys. We did it. If you were here for the last show, the one person watching now, if you were here like 5 minutes ago, you know what happened. I was able to do a live show with on my phone the video just in horizontal landscape, and on YouTube on my PC it had vertical landscape, and I was not able to turn it round. Nothing I could do. Yeah, so let me start over. Just short. Just finished this book by a lawyer, and this lawyer actually he was a very famous Dutch lawyer, and it's called Weed, like the stuff you find between the tiles. Um, it are not the bad fruits that wasps nibble at. That's the undertitle. It's about how the Dutch society of lawyer society, blah blah blah, made him lose his job. He is not allowed to be a lawyer anymore for the rest of his life. And he describes in his book how this farce came to be, because he was the most popular, the most famous, and probably the most successful lawyer in Holland. But he was a little bit too controversial. And you know, in Holland, there's a saying in Holland that if you stick your head above the grain, it will be cut off. Which means in Dutch, just be yourself, be normal. If you do anything out of the ordinary, we got to cut you back down so you don't have any air. So that's the reason why famous Dutch people or pop stars even, they can just walk around in Holland. They probably will not be swamped. It is a little bit different. I see that the screen is freezing a little bit sometimes. It shouldn't happen that much because it's very bad to watch. Dennis says, hey Guido, hey American Stranger, good to see you back. Yeah, you saw the other video as well. Maybe you even saw my election videos, which is unlisted for anybody who wants to watch it. Just send me an email to guidopelagos@gmail.com. Guido with Guideaux, Pelagos@gmail.com. You can find me there. I don't look that email address like every other day, so you know it can take a week or so before I reply, but I will. If you have any questions about the channel, I'll leave the address underneath. Um, so yeah, great to see Dennis here back. Good to see you. Anything else? Well, there is something that I've been doing lately a lot, and that's one of the reasons I haven't been making too many videos, and that's drinking beer. No, it's Friday night. It's the only night that I drink beer normally. Um, but I've been reading a lot. I love reading. Late last year, I was in a course with somebody, just you know, just to be better in your own skin. And the guy did some affirmation work, which was interesting, and the guy did some meditation work and all. And I suddenly found, you know, I found this book in a store, and I just wanted to read it. I bought it and I read it in a day. I was like, man, I used to read so much. I can show you. Look, bookcase, another bookcase. So I like to read, but then again, I won't read for maybe what, a year, 2 years, and then suddenly I get this rush, and I've been reading books. It's fantastic. I mean, the satisfaction you have when finishing a book is next to nothing, in my opinion. Mm. But there's all kinds of books I like to read. Self-help or some biographical stuff, but in general I love science fiction. Now, true sci-fi, not fantasy. Now, I don't mind fantasy that much, but the problem with fantasy for me, it always comes across a little bit childish, with magic and dwarfs and elves and knights and princesses with big lovely ears and castles and yeah, maybe I never had anything much with. So that's the reason why I loathe so many science fiction stories that so a lot of science fiction writers feel the need to put in some primitive society as a contrast to what's happening in the book or something. And like half of the book will play on this dusty planet with big worms where nothing happens. And it's just like, "Yarr." Again, if you like to read books in general, never start with the classics. I mean, if there's one tip I can give anyone who likes books or who doesn't like books and thinks like, oh, I'm not a reader, maybe I'll read a book once, or maybe I'll give it a try and start reading a book. Two things. Do not look at the thickness of the book because it's irrelevant. I've not been able to read books that are less than 100 pages, and I've gone through books of 1,000 pages in 2 weeks. So that's not something you should be bothered with, is the thickness of the book. And the second is never start with a classic because they are always horrible. Coming to sci-fi, for example, the classics in science fiction, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's funny, but it's not really the representative for good science fiction, in my opinion. It's funny, though. It's okay, but it's not really science fiction, in my opinion. The Foundation is not a bad book to start with because it's only 150 pages. Just like Ender's Game is like 250 pages. It's also not bad to start with, but the expectation starts as high. It's a classic. You got to read the classics. It's like, if you go to theater, you don't want to go straight into Shakespeare because it's just not going to hit you. It's dated. It's differently. It's been written differently for a different audience, and it's been performed by people who are into it. So if you're a true theater loving person, you see the theater like every other week, which is going to be hard during Corona, but normally, then you love Shakespeare. But if you never saw a play by Shakespeare, you're not going to be blown away. I just simply do not. With Generation Z, going to a Shakespeare play, maybe 1 out of 10 people would truly enjoy it. The rest will just be there so they can say to whoever else is, oh, I once went to a Shakespeare play. What was it called? I think it was called McGrath. Break a leg. Tudor guy, not Rolex guy. By the way, wearing the Tudor, the Pelagos today. It's my beater. This is the watch I put in the morning if I just have a day. Any ordinary day I put in the Pelagos. And of course I'll swap around during the day a little bit, but that's about it. So one of the things I love is reading, right? Now, one of the great things that we have in Holland, and I think you have it too in your country, and if you don't have it, get it done. What you do is here in Holland, we have something called mini libraries. Now, anyone in this country can start a mini library. You make a big birdhouse next house with little doors and stuff, and you fill it with old books, and they call it roaming books. So you could get a book just for free. You open the doors and you look like, oh, there's a nice book, or when it's rubbish. And you take the books you like, and you're allowed to rent them, read them, keep them. The only thing you're not allowed to do is sell them or set the bookcase on fire. But if you just want to just take one of those books home and keep it and read it, it's fine. If you want to bring it back, it's fine too. And I found that there are about 10 of those mini libraries in cycling distance from my home. So today, I went through 6 of those, and I came home with 8 books. 8 books for free. Now, one of this was this book. There's a book about a soccer player. But I want to show you something else. I took this book with me because I thought it was fun. It was sci-fi-ish. But I didn't really get the gist. It's like, what is it? It's got some pictures in there, and it's not very thick. So I looked it up at home. It's quite a rare book. If you go to Amazon, this book is £150. So yeah, if I decide to sell it, which I'm not allowed officially, I could make good money on this. Now, don't go to the mini libraries to find if you can do that ever happen. So that won't happen a lot. But for example, I had the Satanic Verses from Salman Rushdie, which I bought in 1998 to read because I wanted to know what it was all about. And I read it in Caracas when I was living there. And ever since I came home, I wanted to read it in Dutch as well. But I just didn't want to pay like 25 euros. And now, just a few weeks back, I found the Duivels version, the Dutch versions of the Satanic Verses by Rushdie in Dutch in one of those mini libraries. So I could just take it with me, put it in my on my bookshelf, and just wait until the time that I'm going to read it. Changes. So you go somewhere, you open those boxes. You like today. One of the things that they don't do in Holland is let me show. One of the things they don't do in Holland anymore is translate science fiction. So the only thing you see when you go to a bookshop, a Dutch bookshop, not Waterstones or ABC or any of that, but if you go to a Dutch bookshop, the only thing you see is a section called fantasy science fiction. If it even says science fiction anymore, it normally just says fantasy. What do you see? Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Star Trek. That's it. But in the 80s, loads of science fiction was translated in Dutch, and a lot of hardcover stuff, softcover stuff. And these books are popping up in these mini libraries. And it's fantastic because if I got like a part 2 and a part 3, I can order part 1 online, and I got a whole trilogy for what, €5, which is fantastic. Dennis says, come on, the classics are classics for a reason. Oh yeah, no, but the classics are classics for a reason. However, it's you gotta have a certain level before you can appreciate the classics. It's like watching Kubrick's A Space Oddity 2001. If you're into science fiction and psychology and stuff, I think everybody will love the video, even if it's film, even if it's like 2.5 hours. But if you're born after 2000, I don't think anybody would really enjoy that movie simply because it's slow, it's a bit dated, it's nicely filmed, but the end is a little bit hard to understand probably for many. So the classics, I'm not really for the classics because I tend to already, when everybody goes left, I tend to go right. When everybody decided to like rave and techno music, I went out with blues and Paul McCartney and Dave Matthews, and it's like completely different. So I'm a bit of a polarity responder when the whole group says A. Same thing like the classics. Rolex is the classic, but do you really want to start with a Rolex? That's what I think. If you start out with a Rolex, you're probably not going to be as satisfied as if you build your way up to a Rolex. Simply because your idea of that Rolex or that book or that movie is I'm so disappointed. Oh man. You gotta watch Game of Thrones, Guido. You gotta watch The Sopranos. You gotta watch The Walking Dead. Nope, nothing of that sort. Well, I watched a bit, but really, pretty quickly I was done. So anyway, Salty Paul says, hey, what's going on? Well, it's Friday night, having a beer, having a live show. That's a long time ago. We've got that here, mini libraries. Exactly. Well, anybody, just have a look at the mini libraries, man. It's fantastic. It's free books for all, and you get it's free books for all, and you get surprised by the books you'll find there. It's just other books than what you normally find in the what I say in the normal bookshop. You know, it's all like 5 to 10 years old, or even much older. But who cares? And you save yourself a lot of money, and it's just fun. You go out with the bike, and you go out and you find some nice books to read. Let me just turn off the heating a little bit. It's getting a bit warm in here. There we go. So yeah, I really advise people to just go out and find one of those libraries, take a book home and start reading. I know a lot of people who say, oh, I don't meditate because I don't have the time to meditate, or I can't contemplate, or I can't do affirmations, or I don't have any peace in my life, and this and that. It's like, Get a good book, a book that interests you, not a book that somebody tells you to read. No, a book you find somewhere in a shop that you think like, hey, that sounds like fun. Go home, have a cup of coffee, sit down, turn off the fucking television, and just start reading. And you know, the first part reading is always difficult, but as soon as you've read 10 to 20 pages, and especially if you like the book, it will read itself. And the more I read, the less I find out that I'm actually watching less TV and internet. It's that I don't feel that I'm watching less internet. I don't feel that I'm losing out on anything. But at the same time, I'm reading a book a week. So yeah, things are going good. So anything else that I wanted to talk about? Well, there's gonna be videos up about other stuff. I just thought, you know what, I'll have a beer and talk some rubbish for about 15 minutes. And I'm already 16 in, so that's going well. Anybody else want to share something that I can hang? I must do something about this. I'm still filming with my phone, and yeah, I don't have the money to buy a complete new phone. Otherwise, I would have chucked this Huawei. I mean, as a phone, it functions. Apps and speed, you know, it as a device, it functions pretty well, the Huawei P20. It's got one big flaw, and that's the camera, because it doesn't know if it wants light or dark. It's okay now, but it has been worse. Actually, it's kind of... Let me see if I can turn that down a little. Maybe we'll have a little bit more atmosphere. Of course, I can always do this. But I think that's maybe too dark, so let's put that back on there. Oh. Ah, man. I think it's my first beer in 2 or 3 weeks. I've been pretty busy with all kinds of stuff. All right, so there was other videos coming, right? There's the video about the dive watches coming. I can do it now, but then I have to cut it and make a different video out of it. I think it's nicer to have just one video with the dive watches. Some video about some specific books I want to do. And about the elections, I did the election show. You can watch this if you got the unlisted link. Otherwise, I might put it back onto public. I don't know. But in the end, Dutch elections went. The same parties will probably continue in the next government. But there was an interesting slide in Dutch politics, because what we've seen is that the typical right parties have moved over to the left in the last like 10 to 12 years. So they came from a position of being right, not right wing or alt right or far right or extreme right or whatever right flavor you want to give it. It's just normal right and normal left and center. So this right party, VVD, has been moving towards the left in the last 10 years. And the funny thing is, they've become much more popular because of it. They're still center right, but they're a lot more popular. And what happened to the left side is that the left, the most nuanced, but it cost the far left, like, it's been decimated. Like the whole curse that we, excuse me for my accusation, but all these American trends like rape culture and social justice warriors and LGBTQ HYZ communities and speech that you're not to say. I mean, you couldn't say the N word, which is okay, but now you can't say tranny. You can't say... There's so many things you can't say anymore, and it's like, oh, fuck it. That yeah, it's interesting to see how that worked its way to Europe and in Holland. Compelled speech and all that shit. Transgender, how do you say, adoration, you know, everybody has to hear about, it has to be on television. I think 1 in 100 is transgender, but you know, we get like 50% of the television time is now about them. And it's fine because I don't watch television, but I can imagine some people are a bit tired of it. You know, this whole cancel culture, political correctness, ID politics, everything these far left parties stood for, they got smashed. They got smashed. because people are done with this stupid stuff. You know, they want to have honest people having a good debate. So whether you are right or left wing, it doesn't really matter. But if you're gonna do like, then you're just gonna be ignored, like we all should do with CNN. Just whenever CNN comes on, we'll go like blah 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 blah, because that's what CNN's been doing to everyone, telling them that they're fake news for the last 6 years, 10 years, 25 years, who knows. Oh, that schmeckt gut. Like I said, it's been 2 weeks since I had a beer. I'm not a drinker. I can drink 2 or 3 of these half liters. I'll be a bit tipsy and I'll go to bed. Because if I drink 4 or 5, I'll get sick. I don't really get drunk. I don't know how it is to go like, hey, look, be drunk. I don't have that. It's a little bit like, or it's like, oh dear. I know I would have gotten a reply about the end of the last video. Well, guys, I've been on for 22 minutes. I think it's nice. It wasn't really something special. I just wanted to have a quick talk to show everybody I'm still there. More videos coming up, like I say every time, and it's always a question: when are they coming? When is he live? Can't the guy just tell us when he's going to be live? I can, but the last 5 times I did that, I had to change the time. So I'll just go live whenever I feel like it, and if you're happy and if you're lucky, you'll get me. And otherwise, you know what? It's just my channel. It's not that important, right? Okay. Have a great Friday. Have a good weekend. I'll probably see you again this weekend. You know what? Let's do that thing. Chatty bye.